Hello and welcome to Farm Journal Live. I'm editor Clint Griffiths coming to you from our northern Indiana newsroom here as we get a little bit of rain falling to wrap up a week. And of course, as we're looking across the country and looking at our agricultural industry, we'll start with some market information today, including the latest hogs and pigs report that's just out of USDA, showing that as of June 1st, there were almost 80 million hogs and pigs here in the U.S., up about 5% from June of last year and still up 3% from March. The market hog inventory coming in at 73.7 million, up 6% from 2019. Now, between March and May, about 35 million pigs were weaned. That's up 1% from the same time last year. Let's bring in Alan Brugler, Brugler Marketing and Management, joining me. And Alan, as we look at this report, what's your biggest takeaway from that hogs and pigs report?
Well, we knew that numbers were going to be up, that we were running at a 3 or 4% expansion pace back at the beginning of the year. But this was a little bigger inventory than what the trade had been looking for. Trade was looking for 3 to 4%. We got over 5% more hogs. The biggest concern everybody had was the heavyweight hogs, 180 pounders and up, and also the 120s, the 179s behind them. And the 180s were up over 12%. So well, that wasn't as bad as the worst expectations, but it does say that we've got an extra 600 to 800,000 hogs that need to be slaughtered in a relatively short period of time.
You know, and that's interesting because we've talked for a long time about kind of this backlog that we saw start to stack up as we had, you know, some limitations with processor capacity and so forth. Where does this put us now as we're trying to move forward and then still get through the backlog and sort through some of the disappearance?
Yeah, basically what it means is we would normally have a decline in hog slaughter during the summer. We drop down to 2.2, 2.3 million head per week. We're going to have to keep that above 2.4 million, probably all the way into September to try and eat into this backlog. The pig crop for March, May was a little larger than the trade had anticipated. So we need to get these guys out of here because there's more of them coming behind.
We did see breeding inventory down about 1%. Does that show that we are making some adjustments?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to tighten up the supply for the fourth quarter and in the first part of next year. If farrowing intentions for June through August are down about almost 5%. That's about the same as what everybody was thinking back in March, which is a little surprising that didn't shift. But yeah, so we've got the heavy hogs. We're going to be fighting them for a while. And then we'll see a pretty good drop off in that fourth quarter, I think, and into the first part of next year.
Alan, do you expect more pressure here on prices as we try to sort through all of this inventory?
Well, we've been under pressure for quite a while here. The big issue is stabilizing those cutout values, the pork prices, because the CME index, which is what the futures trade off, is heavily weighted towards the pork cutouts. A lot of hogs are sold on a pork formula these days. That really should stabilize here, given that we've got pretty good pork exports. The thing is, we're not getting the seasonal bounce in the summer that we normally would get from reduced slaughter. So BLT season is still going to happen, but we'll have more bacon available to us.
Yeah, we did eat through some stocks, right? The latest cold storage report showing that some of those stocks were down because of all of the kind of processor issues we had over the last few months.
Yeah, that was the main reason. With the packing plants down, including several of the largest ones in the United States, we did eat into that cold storage inventory fairly substantially by the end of May. And it caused a big spike in grocery store prices. And the rule on grocery pricing is that they're sticky. The prices are slow to go up when wholesale prices are rising, but they're slow to come down when the wholesale price is coming down. Wholesale's been coming down, basically saying, hey, folks, we need to clear this inventory, but it's not being passed on to the consumer very quickly right now.
Talking with Alan Brugler, Brugler Marketing and Management. Let's talk about some of the grain price situation that we've been seeing over here over the last couple of days. Some pretty heavy pressure on some of our grains. Where do we sit here on a Friday at the end of the week?
Well, we had kind of a perfect storm in the corn market this week. Part of it was literally a storm. We got some pretty good rains across the central part of the Corn Belt. Iowa has been getting rather frequent showers. There's still some dry areas in the western edge of the Corn Belt, and also Ohio and Indiana could use some more. But on top of that, with this big expansion in COVID cases down in the southern United States, particularly, trade's a little worried that the improvement we've been seeing on weekly ethanol grind and corn consumption might slow down here, that we lose some miles driven. So combination of good weather for new crop and some demand risk on old crop, and that causes us to break out of the uptrend and go back and test the old lows on the corn charts.
Alan, what's on your radar as we go through July? What are the big things that you're going to continue to watch other than, as you mentioned, weather and coronavirus? Any other indicators?
Well, first thing is the June 30th grain stocks and planted acreage report. Most of the really bearish numbers you're hearing out there for corn production are based on 96 or 97 million acres. If USDA tells us producers switch more to beans, and we actually think they did, that will be somewhat supportive. The corn stocks could also be a surprise if they fail to pick up some of the lice test weight from the last fall's freeze damage. After that, we're pretty much straight in weather in July, because that's when the yield development is most impacted in corn. Soybeans, of course, is more in August.
Alan, I've been asking everybody that comes on this one question. Give me one thing you're optimistic about for the agricultural industry as we move further into 2020 here.
The example that I give is that when a new grocery chain moves into town, it usually squeezes out a competitor. They have to fight on price. In ag, Mother Nature can make everybody whole all at once. Yeah. We just need somewhere in the world for that to happen, and it usually does.
All right. Well, I appreciate the insights as always. Thanks for joining us here on a Friday and spending a little bit of time with us.
My pleasure.
Looking at some other news, Bayer announcing this week plans to settle a host of court cases involving Roundup, dicamba drift, and PCB water litigation. The company saying the Roundup resolution will bring closure to about 75% of current cases involving about 125,000 claims by people alleging that the Roundup caused their cancer. Now, the company is saying it will make a payment of up to about $10.9 billion, but it still needs an approval from a judge. All right, joining us now we have Lisa Safarian. She's the president of Bayer Crop Sciences North America. And Lisa, thank you so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate you taking the time to stop by and talk about what's been going on in this settlement of cases. This is something that's been really closely watched by the entire agricultural industry. Just fill us in with the basics of what does this mean, just at the very broad base level.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Basically, we have signed a set of agreements that allow us to put behind us and settle about 75% of the legacy Monsanto cases. So the Roundup glyphosate settlements, most of the PCB settlements, as well as the dicamba settlements as well. So what it does is it allows us to put all of that behind us and focus instead on the future. Really doing what we do best at Bayer, which is innovation and bringing new products to farmers.
We talk about trying to move forward. What does that mean? And why don't we just start with the glyphosate side of things? What does that mean for farmers around the country going forward, knowing that there are still a few of those cases to work through?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to make sure that I'm really clear about is we absolutely stand behind the safety and the benefits of glyphosate and dicamba, as well as the systems that use those products. That hasn't changed. They are absolutely safe, and we stand behind that. But what's really exciting about these agreements is that it allows us to confirm for farmers the availability of these products. And so farmers don't have to worry about whether or not they'll be able to access these products and use these products. It confirms that availability. And then again, it confirms our availability to go forward and build new products for farmers.
And I think that really is the heart of the discussion, especially from the growers that we've talked to, is them being comfortable and confident knowing that these types of products will be there going forward. We're talking to some folks thinking about and actually filling bulk tanks for next year right now. And of course, they want to know, is this going to be available next year?
Yeah, and that's really what was critical for us. We need to provide certainty. And now we have that. And glyphosate is going to be available just as it has been before. So, absolutely no change from a farmer's perspective in terms of the availability of this product.
You know, if we're talking about dicamba, obviously we still have to get through the re-registration for over-the-top use for next year. Does this impact that at all? How is Bayer feeling about that happening come later this year?
Sure. So the Ninth Circuit decision and the EPA's decision following that, as well as the signing of these agreements, has nothing to do with the re-registration.
Okay.
So the re-registration is currently with the EPA, and everything that we're expecting, and we believe it's still on track for approval this fall.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about how Bayer reassures and builds some confidence back in with dicamba for next season. You get this re-registration, you get the new label. Obviously, Bayer's been working to make sure that everyone is following the label. There's been training put in place. This has been kind of a build over the last 3 years to try to make sure that everyone uses this in the most responsible way possible. Talk about how you build confidence going forward into 2021.
Sure. So, as you said, we've really focused a lot on training and tools that are available for farmers to make sure that they follow the label appropriately and have great success with the product. And what we've seen is more than 90% of the farmers who use the system are very satisfied with the weed control that they get. And so we will continue that work of training and making sure everybody understands the label. And once we have registration, making sure the product is out there and available for farmers to be able to use successfully again next year.
Obviously, volatility has been one of those things with dicamba that Bayer's had to talk about and discuss. Where does that conversation sit right now?
So as you know, XtendiMax also has what we call vapor grip technology, which really helps with the volatility and keeps it on target. Really, our focus is making sure that farmers follow the label in terms of exactly how to use the product, because we find then we get a very good result.
Yeah. As we talk about the settlements this week, talk about what does that mean? It's not necessarily anyone admitting fault, right, on this thing. It's just making sure that you're not tied up in a court battle for years to come.
That's correct. And it was very important that we made that statement. So these settlements or these agreements really are just to move this behind us. We absolutely believe in the safety of glyphosate, as do many health organizations and regulatory bodies around the world. So that has not changed. We felt that we needed to put these settlements behind us so we could focus on the future and focus on innovation and bringing new products forward for our farmer customers.
And I think that's one of the things that the industry is trying to figure out right now is what does the future of innovation look like? And, you know, obviously dicamba, we've seen other chemistries kind of get tied up in some of these lawsuits, and it feels like every time we have a new tool that comes to market, now we're back fighting to be able to keep using them. What does the future look like as companies like Bayer try to make sure that we do have the best technology available as farmers?
So we are absolutely committed to fighting for the technologies and keeping the technologies that we have today, as you've seen with the agreements that we signed yesterday. But in the meantime, we've not backed off of research and development. We have just as much of a commitment and investment in research and development than we've ever had to continue to look for new tools for farmers to make them successful. You might have heard a while back, we talked about a new mode of action that we've discovered to help control weeds. It's still in early stages, but if we can get it all the way through and out the door for commercialization, it'll be the first time in over 30 years when a new mode of action was discovered. So our commitment to R&D and bringing new tools that's a result of part of that commitment, but we're just going to keep on working on new ways to help farmers because, as you know, we need farmers to feed not only Americans, but others around the world.
Lisa Safarian, thank you so much, President Bayer Crop Sciences North America. Really appreciate you taking time today to visit with us.
Thank you.
And of course, it wouldn't be Friday if we didn't have some breaking news during Farm Journal Live. This just coming out from National FFA. The National FFA organization has just announced that the 2020 National FFA Convention and Expo will be held virtually. The organization also extended its contract with the host city of Indianapolis to 2031 to 2033. Now, the CEO, Mark Peschel, saying they want to ensure that members and guests had a full convention experience, but after a discussion with the National FFA Board of Directors, the decision was made to move forward with a virtual experience for 2020. As they continued to plan for the national convention, it became clear that travel restrictions, public health concerns, among many other pandemic-related challenges, made hosting the in-person event impossible in 2020. So FFA will not have their National FFA Convention and Expo in October in Indianapolis. That just breaking the decision. It will now be a virtual event in place of that in-person event that we've come to know, and that is being recommended by the National FFA staff and affirmed by the Board of Directors today. So much more to come on that, I'm sure, as that story develops. Of course, if you'd like to keep up with the very latest happening across the agricultural industry, you can do that by going to agweb.com or any other host of sites where we continue to put the latest information. Again, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy your weekend.
It started as social distancing, self-isolation, and caring for loved ones. A time for agriculture to be proud, to be essential. Now, it's changing. While states start to reopen and jobs resume, out here, the clouds are building. The path is uncertain. It's not the first time, it won't be the last. But we'll farm on. This soil is soaked in generations of sweat, of reinvention, of grit. Farm on is a calling. It's a mantra, a mindset. When the horizon dims and things turn dark, we'll find the light. We may be doing this for you, but we're also doing it for them. 2020, now's the time to farm on.